In the late 1890s, countries around the world secretly vied for the honor of being the first to reach the North Pole. Whether traveling across the ice sheets by dog sled or breaking through ice by ship, every expedition set out with great ambition, only to end in failure. It was not until the American explorer Robert Peary successfully reached the pole that this decades-long Arctic race finally came to an end. Among the many exploration attempts, the plan proposed by the Swedish explorer Salomon August Andrée to cross the North Pole by hot air balloon was arguably the most unique and bizarre of all. His expedition vanished without a trace shortly after its launch in 1897, and repeated search efforts yielded no results, leaving it as a sealed mystery in the history of Arctic exploration. Andrée's dream of a balloon voyage to the North Pole was not a flight of fancy. He graduated from the Royal Institute of Technology in Stockholm, earning a degree in mechanical engineering with honors in 1874. At the age of 22, he sailed to the United States to attend the Centennial Exposition. During the voyage, he read a book titled The Laws of the Winds, whose discussion on the regularity of wind patterns sparked a sudden idea: perhaps long-distance transoceanic travel could be achieved not by ship, but by balloon propelled solely by wind power. While in the United States, he met the balloonist John Wise, whose experiences of escaping danger while piloting balloons in severe weather convinced Andrée of the safety of balloon flight and further ignited his interest in trying it himself. After returning to Sweden, Andrée took on various jobs, but his fascination with balloons never faded. In 1892, at the age of 38, he took his first balloon flight. According to his companion Francesco, Andrée remained remarkably calm in the air, showing no signs of being a first-time flyer. This experience strengthened his resolve to advance his balloon exploration plans. Soon afterward, with funding from a public scientific foundation, Andrée acquired his own balloon, which he named the Sway. He went on to complete 9 balloon flights, covering a total distance of approximately 1,500 kilometers and spending more than 40 hours in the air. He once ascended to an altitude of 4,115 meters, and on another occasion, he suffered severe headaches at 4,343 meters due to the high altitude. During his 6th flight, he had become proficient enough to control the balloon speed by adjusting its rigging, and he would drop labeled cards from the air to track his flight path. Drawing on his knowledge of mechanical engineering and meteorology, Andrée continuously modified the balloon's equipment. He was also acutely aware of its limitations. The balloon had poor maneuverability, often ascending or descending abruptly, and high altitudes caused physical discomfort, but he regarded these issues as surmountable challenges. His ultimate goal remained fixed on flying across the North Pole. To realize this goal, Andrée began making full preparations. He delivered numerous speeches at the Royal Swedish Academy of Sciences, passionately outlining his plan and emphasizing that the Arctic summer is the optimal time for balloon flight. His efforts successfully attracted technical support from meteorologists and physicists. The founder of the Nobel Prize, the Swedish royal family, as well as wealthy individuals and foundation organizations from all sectors of society, all offered their assistance. King Oscar II of Sweden even publicly declared, the last unexplored place on Earth should be discovered by the Swedes. At that time, as Sweden's first balloonist, no one could challenge his plan with professional expertise. Although experienced balloonists from countries with a long tradition of ballooning, such as France and Germany, expressed skepticism about the expedition, their doubts failed to dampen the enthusiasm of the Swedish public. Encouraged by the king, public patriotic sentiment ran high, and Andrée became the hope of the nation. The success or failure of his expedition was closely tied to national honor. Andrée had gradually come to realize that this journey was fraught with difficulties. In 1896, Andrée's Arctic expedition plan entered the implementation phase. He commissioned a balloon with a diameter of 20.5 meters, made of 3 layers of silk fabric. To accommodate 3 crew members and allow them to live on board for a month, the interior of the balloon was specially designed. Additionally, since hydrogen is highly flammable, the crew could not cook inside the balloon. A friend of Andrée's designed a pressurized burner, suspending a kerosene stove 8 meters below the crew compartment to ensure safety. For his crew, Andrée initially selected the Arctic meteorologist Ekholm and Strindberg, an assistant to a physics professor and amateur photographer. The latter was included to map the Arctic region through aerial photography. However, the first attempt to launch the expedition encountered a setback. In June 1896, the Eagle, the balloon Andrée had specially named for his Arctic expedition, was scheduled to make its maiden flight. The Swedish public gave the three men a warm send-off, hailing them as heroes destined for victory. But a sudden gale forced the flight to be postponed indefinitely. This failure also made Ekholm see the situation clearly. He discovered that the hydrogen leakage rate was far higher than expected, and the balloon's structural integrity and airtightness were substandard. For the sake of safety, he chose to withdraw from the expedition, and his position was ultimately taken by Frankel. Andrée was well aware of these flaws, but he was unwilling to disappoint the nation's expectations. Furthermore, the death of his mother the same year plunged him into depression, and he was eager to lift himself out of his low mood by realizing his dream. Thus, he resolved to launch the expedition as soon as possible. On July 11, 1897, they set off once more. However, when the balloon ascended to 700 meters, low air pressure caused hydrogen to rapidly leak through 8 million tiny holes. The Eagle gradually lost its balance and, after a period of turbulent flight, inevitably crashed back onto the ice floe. What followed was an even more severe survival crisis. On July 13, Andrée sent his last message via carrier pigeon, stating, as of 12:30 p.m. on July 13, position at 82 degrees north, 13 degrees east, heading east, all is well. After that, the expedition lost all contact with the outside world. When news of the disappearance reached Sweden, various speculations spread in the newspapers. Some believed the men had crashed into a cliff and perished, others imagined that savage indigenous peoples inhabited the Arctic and had killed the expedition members. The Swedish government dispatched multiple search teams, but they found no trace of the expedition. With the outbreak of World War I, people gradually forgot about the Eagle, and Andrée's name faded into a mere footnote in Arctic legends. It was not until August 5, 1930, that the expedition, which had been missing for 33 years, finally reappeared. A Norwegian expedition team, taking advantage of unusually high summer temperatures that left the sea ice free, was able to sail to the remote White Island to hunt seals when they accidentally discovered wreckage inscribed with the words Andrée's Polar Expedition 1896. The team leader immediately recognized the significance of the find and ordered an expansion of the search area. They soon located 2 human remains, and nearby, there was a grave containing the body of Strindberg. The team also found diaries, maps, canned food, hunting rifles, morphine, photographic film, a stove, teacups, and other items in the vicinity. Not long after, the remains of the 3 explorers were transported back to Stockholm, finally offering the possibility of solving the long-buried mystery. Through the diaries and autopsy reports, people gradually reconstructed the final days of the 3 men. They trekked eastward for several weeks, suffering from frostbite, snow blindness, and stomach problems. They even tried eating raw bear meat and dragged sleds across the ice despite being seriously ill, eventually struggling to reach White Island. However, they were then stranded by violent northwest winds and had to prepare to spend the winter on the ice. They built an igloo by piling snow and pouring water on it, but the pack ice split apart shortly afterward, rendering all their efforts futile. The harsh Arctic weather often confined them to their tent for days on end. They could only venture out in thin coats to search for driftwood and animal bones when the weather improved, and every night, they fell asleep in fear, listening to the creaking and grinding sounds of the ice cracking. After extensive research and verification, conclusions were drawn regarding the cause of the 3 men's deaths. Strindberg was the first to die, killed in a polar bear attack. Frankel sustained severe injuries while fighting off a polar bear and eventually passed away inside the tent. When his body was found, he was without gloves or shoes. After burying Strindberg, Andrée discovered that he was stranded on the island and unable to return to the tent. Despair washed over him like a tidal wave. He wrapped his diary in a sweater and dry grass, hiding it within a crevice in the rock, hoping future generations might learn of their suffering. Finally, leaning half upright against the rock, he injected morphine and left this world forever. In 1930, when the remains of Andrée and his companions were brought back to Sweden, the entire nation mourned. The enthusiastic send-off they had received when they departed stood in stark contrast to the somber tribute paid upon their tragic return. The controversy surrounding Andrée has never ceased. Some criticized him for being reckless and impulsive, disregarding hidden dangers to forge ahead, and dismissing his balloon plan as pseudoscience. Others, however, praised his courage, arguing that progress cannot be made without attempt. Though the expedition ended in failure, it took a bold step forward in Arctic exploration. Today, the story of the Eagle has become a classic chapter in the history of Arctic exploration, reminding people that humanity's quest to explore the unknown is endless, and every attempt is infused with both courage and tragedy.